I'm Edie Lush, and I'm here in the Hub Pavilion in Davos. Delighted now to be joined by David Kirkpatrick, an old friend to Hub culture. You are the founder of Techonomy, author of The Facebook Effect. Social media, definitely one of your fortes. How do you think it's being dealt with here in Davos this year?
Well, it couldn't be dealt with too much, and I don't think it's being dealt with enough, but I think it has crept into the discussions here. It's funny because last year at Davos, the political impact of social media really wasn't on the agenda. And it was exactly while Davos was taking place that the Egyptian revolution was underway. And it was widely discussed, oh my God, what's happening in the world, we're not even talking about here. That was sort of disjunctive. This year, it's no debate that social media is a transformative force in business and society, and especially politics
We
all
just
over the world.
had the SOPA effect, or the transformative effect that social media played in a bill, getting rid of a bill in the U.S. I wonder what your take on that was.
Well, I think it's what happened last week with SOPA is historic, probably at the same level of historicity as the Arab Spring. Because what we saw last week was
This is the Stop Online Piracy Act.
It doesn't even matter what the bill is,
Right.
although what was unique in this case was that the internet industry organized quite effectively. But what they did most effectively is mobilize the users of the internet by the tens of millions to get engaged. And in this day and age, when the users of the internet get engaged, number one, they use social media to tell their friends, and they have enormous impact. If they're engaged, they have impact. It's as simple as that. And the industry started it, in effect, this last week. But the impact was that in one day, effectively, Congress turned around 180 degrees on an issue. So you had a bill that had been voted out of committee unanimously that has now been abandoned by its sponsors. This is a radical transformation. This is why I call it historic. We have never before seen a political issue die as fast as we saw that happen in the United States last week. So these same forces that we saw bringing down Mubarak, that we've seen transforming Israel and Spain and a lot of other countries, are really in full force in the United States, and not just to elect Barack Obama, but nobody knows where it goes next. And, I think if there were a good discussion here at Davos about it, which I doubt will happen to the degree that it needs to, unfortunately, what they would be discussing is how can we as the leaders, because this is the ultimate elite, probably to a degree that is really anachronistic at this point, but that's what this still is. How can we invoke these forces and partner with them and, in a sense, surrender to these forces to create an organizing power that is equivalent to the destructive power that it's shown so far? So that how do we create something that replaces the Egyptian government, that can, govern Syria when Assad is finally removed, which he certainly will be. All these things that social media is destroying have to be replaced. And the big question is, can social media be positive, creative, formative force as much as it is a destructive force? And at the moment, we haven't seen proof of that. I'm fully confident that it can be. But I think the mechanisms for that, the means by which it happens, are unknown. By the way, in Israel, there is a new movement among the protesters, where among the most dramatic social media protests have occurred, to create an alternative vision for Israeli society, to really come up with what is effectively a platform for social transformation. We did not see that in the Occupy movement. So that's very exciting.
So we've talked a little bit about social media's impact on democracy. It can have a destructive force, can also have a positive force. What are the other trends that you're seeing in social media at the moment?
Well, Facebook is becoming the world's communications platform. So that is a bizarre reality that one company, which I happen to be very expert in, I'm very pleased that I dug deep with them starting, 5 years ago. But look, it's weird that a company is becoming the world's communications platform. We've never had that. AT&T was a monopoly in the US and they broke it up. But Facebook's role is starting to become even more dramatic on a global scale than AT&T was in the U.S., 25 years ago.
So this is what
That's
scares
weird.
me a little bit, because when I was growing up in the States, we had T-shirts that were AT&T when it was a monopoly, and the T-shirt said, "We don't care, we don't have to," because they were the one company that you had to go to. And it is a little bit scary.
So what, are you a lefty back in those days? Okay.
You're obviously a friend of Mark Zuckerberg. You've spoken to him. What happens if it goes evil? What happens if we're all trusting this company? And
I'm
it goes
not
wrong?
that worried about Facebook going evil in general because, Facebook really only rules with the consent of the governed, so to speak. Facebook's users have an incredibly effective voice in determining their own fate. That's what Facebook gives them. That's why they like it so much. Mm-hmm. It is an empowerment tool for individuals. That's why I love it so much. That's why the Egyptian protesters and the Israeli protesters and the Occupy movement love it so much. And that will be invoked against Facebook if they step out of line. And they know that, which is great. And the fear that we might really want to get into a dystopian, fearful scenario is that, some years down the line, Facebook's, becomes so embedded as a communications infrastructure that even if the members decide they don't like it and start protesting it, Mark Zuckerberg has become like Big Brother and just sort of looks down from on high and says, "You have no choice." But, I don't think that's likely, and I don't think that's his personality, and I don't think that would happen, because actually Mark wants Facebook to be a powerful, a positive force. And he does have real competition in the form of Google Plus right now, which is healthy. But, you can say, and I do say, that entrepreneurship can always create alternatives to Facebook. But it will be hard for something to emerge and to be a platform for 1 billion people, to really give them an alternative in a short-term scenario. Although just like Facebook's gone to 1 billion in, 8 years, probably the next thing can go to 1 billion in 4 years or 2 years. And maybe, I really don't worry about Facebook abusing its power. But what I do worry about is Facebook not communicating effectively to its users and to governments about what it's really trying to do, and there becoming a real sort of gridlock of misunderstanding. And Facebook's already faced that. I think it has not handled its social role as deliberately as I would have liked to see it do up to now. It wants to play a central role in society. But the privacy controversy is just to name one, and by no means is that going to be the only issue. But that one I don't think they've handled as smoothly and adeptly as they ought to have.
David, thanks so much for stopping in to the Hub Pavilion here in Davos.
Thanks, Edie.
And I'm Edie Lush.